Do I have any comments from the public? I think I do.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can keep going until got the
Are you-
graphics.
I-
I'm still trying to get connected here.
Okay, we'll give you a
We'll
second.
defer. Yeah.
Would you like me to turn the meeting?
No. If you want to.
Do I have any comments from the directors?
That's a question off. There was a water repair expense this month, 31,000, I think it was. Eric, I don't know if it was you.
The letter.
Page 6, the water repair, 31,000.
Yeah.
That's where we got it. Or that's where you all got it.
Yeah, account number 5300.05, water service repair, 31,000. Is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Want to know what that's for? That was Aaron's question.
All right, I'll have to get that back to you.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Really?
Pardon?
Is it, are we up to 4 yet? Where are we?
Oh, adjustments. Do I have any adjustments?
No.
Now I'm at the consent agenda.
Okay. Under item 5.
Yes.
I've got a couple of edits. I just caught them. Adam, I do not believe works for the San Jacinto River Planning. I asked him if he still worked for Baird, but he doesn't work for Baird either. So,
But at the time.
at the time he did, so that's an edit. And then I think it's Walt Lashevsky, not Walk Lashevsky.
Oh, it's a typo.
So that's all I have.
Okay.
That's a couple of easy fixes there.
Okay. That's the only changes to the minutes. What about the rest of the consent agenda?
No, everything's good. As far as I'm.
Okay, with those corrections to the minutes, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. How about now? Are we ready for our public comment? Close? While we're waiting for him, I'll move on to item number 10. Oh, no, that was in my consent agenda. My apology. So we're at the regular agenda. Item number 11.
Not a problem. So our report begins on page 19, runs through page 54. Those pages includes the Woodlands Monthly Operations Report, the GRP Monthly Operations Report, and the 6-month project update. That 6-month project update goes into a little bit more information on what's occurred, what's going to occur, what's on schedule, off schedule, same as you saw before. I don't have anything to add, but be happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah, just go to page 23.
Yes, sir.
Under the owner's advisor, evaluation of WTF number 1. So the study will be reinitiated. Is that correct? To discuss approach, SGRA to discuss approach to reinitiate study with the MUDs and Corolla.
So that was discussed at the trustees meeting,
Yeah.
and we have another recommendation today regarding this study that we'll get to under item, I think it's 13, 14.
Oh.
It is this sheet that's up here as well.
Okay, all right. That's great. Thank you.
I do have a answer for you whenever we hit that.
Everything else good?
There was about 6 service line breaks at 6 different residences over the last month, just in 6 alone. About 6 alone that
Got it.
Wow.
took care of all those 6, 31,000.
Coincidental, geographic, or?
Within months, no, yeah, there's just various residences that had breaks at the meter. We had to go in and fix.
Wow.
I ran a piece.
Roughly, that's pretty normal. Some might include a driveway, some might include, various things that make them all. Some could be 3,000, some could be 7. Just looking at it, they're all different. So kind of depends on what we have to encounter for the fix.
Age the biggest factor?
I was gonna ask that question.
I mean, generally speaking, yes. Some of it has to do with the type of pipe that's there. We encounter what we call blue poly, and that's real brittle when it becomes 40, 50 years old. So throughout the woodlands, we have a lot of that every day we go in and have to replace. It's not pliable. And that's the type of pipe material that's used for those connections. So there were 6 of them.
Thank you. Okay, going to page 34. For Chris. So I recall, Water Well 3 is just down the street from me, and I recall about 11 years ago, something like that. There was, it was being rehabilitated.
Mhm.
And that was to replace the pump and everything, right?
Correct. At that time, if memory serves, that was a well rehab, which is what we're doing here, but
Yeah.
it's also an electrical rehab at the same time.
Okay. So, but this one is a more challenging, I won't say challenging, more complex. You're going to lower the screens.
In this case, no, well 3, the pumping equipment will be replaced and then the new pump. So the screens will stay the same. We're just going to take the pump and lower it 50.
Just the pump.
Yeah, so add some column pipe, add some air line, stuff like that, but just
Okay.
extend it.
All right. And I'm going to guess you'll be getting the static water levels before all this happens, so you can estimate what the pumping water level will be.
We do. I actually thinking about it. I should have those now. If not, then we'll have them by the next month.
Oh, okay.
Get this.
Worries. Thank you. That's it.
We ready for our public? Okay,
Yeah, my name is CT Gooding. I'm from Like the Woodlands Coalition, Vice President of the board there, also a resident of Grogan's Mill. And I want to talk to you guys about a drainage pathway project. Neil and I believe I talked to you guys before prior on this and prior meetings, as well as other board members of Like the Woodlands have presented on this concept in the past. Just to remind you or refresh your memory on it, I wanted to share the original kind of concept to everyone, just to orient you. Here is Grogan's Mill coming down to Sawdust. And then this is a drainage way ditch that exists underpassing both Grogan's Mill and Sawdust Road. There is existing pathway that runs along the drainage ditch. You can see this is a similar Google Maps, and green, you can see the drainage ditch or the pathway that runs existing on the drainage way. And so the concept was to continue that down and be able to connect to amenities along Sawdust Road, to be able to connect into Grogan's Point, and also into many amenities that we have in preserves, Montgomery County Preserve. There's a 14-mile unpaved nature trail along the north side of Spring Creek. That'd be a great amenity to connect to. And then also a 20-mile greenway trail on the south side of the creek, which is going to continue all the way through to Burroughs Park and all the way to 59 Highway and Kingwood area. And so this will be a great opportunity to create additional connectivity and access to park and ride and other amenities throughout the woodlands for the residents. When this was discussed in the past, my understanding is it was rejected by your board due to concerns of going underneath the Grogan's Mill and Sawdust Road, and any modifications that would be required to that drainage way underneath the bridge was of high concern and potentially high cost. So looking at this design, I think we could bypass those underpasses. You can see this just same diagram, just slightly modified to basically when you hit Grogan's Mill Road, go along Grogan's Mill Road to an existing intersection light, cross that intersection and then connect back up at Sawdust. And so this would basically bypass the need for a pathway to go underneath Grogan's Mill and Sawdust Road. And I think hopefully alleviate concerns about needing to modify the ditch or do extensive engineering work as part of this project. Instead, the pathway could continue along the top edge of the drainage way as it does in these other sections up here that we saw earlier. So really what I'm seeking in today's comment is for your board's consideration of would you be amenable to a pathway along the drainage ditch here within MUD 6? And if so, then we could proceed forward on next steps of investigating the feasibility of developing and getting the right parties together. Because MUD 6 is the majority owner of the land along this drainage ditch, that's why I'm starting with you guys to make sure that we do have support before we take any further steps.
Not on our agenda, so we really can't have an in-depth discussion today. What I would recommend is that we put this on the agenda for the May's meeting and so that we're able to discuss it. And maybe in the meantime, you can also send us some written support for this so we can take a look at it between now and the next meeting. And if we put it on our agenda, then we can have a full discussion back and forth. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
For those materials, can we potentially just overlay the actual mud maps on that drainage ditch and what the proposal is? Just, I mean, because part of this is obviously not MUD 6. So I'm just curious where the borders are and just understanding the different stakeholders.
Yeah, so I've looked at like the Montgomery County Appraisal District, at least their maps. And that's where I came up with majority ownership of MUD 6. There is a small tiny section owned by Howard Hughes. And then obviously when you veer off the drainage ditch over here, you get into probably what Lee County right away.
Yeah.
Along the road.
Aaron, we really can't have this discussion. You can ask Eric to get us the information that we need from them to put on our agenda for next month.
Yeah, we can possibly overlay something. We'll have to see how, we'll have to see.
Okay.
We probably need that. Copy of that.
Yeah, so Eric, I can find your contact information and send you something. This is not an exact route, sort of illustration, right? But yeah, any information you can provide to help with communication and discussion, I appreciate it.
We look forward to being able to discuss it next month.
Sounds good.
Thank you
so much.
very much.
You.
Moving on to item number 12, consider an act on the supplemental agreement with SJRA for issuance of bonds in connection with Tier 1 water line renewal projects, including the discussion on timing of the Tier 1 water line renewal project. Pages 55 through 64.
Afternoon. Want to start with page 64. You should have a chart that looks like this. During the month of March, we had a number of questions posed to us as to what kind of schedule did you have in mind for getting the supplemental agreement approved? And when would projects flow? When would money be needed? When, all sorts of things. So this memo is kind of to address that. We had originally intended to get you the supplemental agreement to review back in March, or actually January with approval in March. We missed that deadline, and that was kind of an internal deadline more than anything. And so when we did finally get it delivered, Brian looked at it, we were getting some comments back. We had a couple of directors mention we got election coming up in May. Be nice if we could wait until after the new directors were seated and address it at that time. So this schedule is based on that. If the new directors being seated, having a chance to do an all MUD meeting to educate the directors about the projects, and then seek approval of supplemental agreement in late June or July. So with the
Come from many directors in MUD 6.
Neil, not that I'm aware of. I think it, there were some out of 46, there were some out of 67, there were some out of 47, there were some 36, and maybe a couple others. So
No, I didn't think so. I just want to make sure.
No,
Yeah.
and these were just general comments with, and, you know, once you start hearing enough of it, you start to realize you're not going to be able to get approval in April. So you might as well look for a more realistic schedule. And so that's the intent of this schedule. So the idea is the MUDs would approve supplemental agreement in June or July. We would go to our board in July of 26 to get their approval of you all passing it. During the July 26 meeting, we would also be doing, working with Adams firm and getting official statements for the bond offering. In August, we would do the underwriting or work with underwriters, get final documents. In September, the bond sale, October, close on the bond sale, get with the Attorney General's office to approve the bond sale, and then funds would be in the bank shortly thereafter. At that same time, October 26th, we would be advertising for Woodlands Parkway Engineering. If you remember, we were trying to combine the engineering for Woodlands Parkway with the same time that Town Center Waterline funding was occurring. So that's why you see it there. Town Center easement acquisition, can't do the easement acquisition without funds. And so we were deferring the easements until funds were available. Town Center easement acquisition would take 6 to 9 months. So that's why you see the November 26th to July 27. Town Center engineering design is scheduled to be complete by the end of December of this year. And then new rates would go into effect. New wholesale rates would go into effect because of the bond issue. And then preliminary engineering for Woodlands Parkway Waterline would begin February 27 and continue through January of 2028. Advertised for the construction of Town Center Waterline in July. That follows the completion or all the acquisition of the easements. And then in October of 27, we would be issuing a contract to a contractor to proceed with construction of the Town Center Waterline project. That project will last about 18 months. We would pursue final engineering for Woodlands Parkway Waterline. That also would take another year. And then after that, construction of Woodlands Parkway Waterline will take 18 to 20 months. So this kind of gives you an idea of the schedule. Take a look at that. If you have any questions, if you pass those to Eric. And then I have 2 other documents to talk to you about. You should have at your play 2 emails from me, one dated April 13th and one dated April 14th. So let's start with the April 14th email. It says Waterline project cost estimating. We've had several questions posed to us. Why is there a difference between the HDR estimates on the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 waterline versus SGRA's estimates? And if you recall, we handed out back in March a 11 by 17 spreadsheet that had the tier 1, tier 2 projects on there, and this is in reference to the numbers that were shown on that spreadsheet. So the purpose of this email is to kind of step the directors through how we came up with our numbers, because the HDR estimates were based on 2025 costs. And by the time these projects go to construction, several years will have passed by. Costs are going up. That second paragraph on cover email talks about some of the things that come into play in estimating projects. Fuel costs, we're all seeing fuel at the pump is over $4 a gallon. Diesel is over $5 a gallon. Diesel impacts contractors directly because of their heavy equipment. The labor market is a little bit tenuous at this point because some of the good workers are not available anymore. And then there's just the cost of materials due to the inflation. I saw something last week that said inflation was about 1% higher than what it was projected. And so that's anticipated to continue as long as we have some of the items going on in the world. So, but if you take a look at this email, you have questions, again, pass them to Eric. We'll be happy to answer them. But we tried to do this kind of a step by step so that it's easily explainable to everybody. And it was also intended to give you a guide as to how to relate some of our costs back to the project sheets that you are going to see next month. Any quick questions on that? The next email, let's take April 13th. This is longer, but I'm not going to spend any more time on it than what I just did on the other one. We've had a number of directors ask us, how does SGRA go about identifying projects and then prosecuting them from concept to completion? You all have heard a little bit over time. We would come to you with a project plan that talks about preliminary engineering, final engineering, and then construction phase. Well, we're doing a lot more condition assessments now to help, I'll say, reinforce the need to do these projects. And so this email basically gives you a quick understanding of concept and what falls in that. But then we walk you through the different tasks that we are performing internally to go from concept to preliminary to final design, bidding, and then to construction. In the conceptual phase, we have a cost estimate, but it's very preliminary. It's typically based on a length of, if it's a linear project, it's how many miles of pipe, estimate how many dollars per foot, and that's an all-encompassing with a 30% contingency. We go into preliminary engineering, it still has a 30% contingency, but we're getting better numbers because there's actually survey work that's being done. When you get into final design, much more detailed. You've got detailed drawings, you've got technical specs. You've pretty much itemized all the bid items that are going to be in that project. During final design, the consultant is delivering to us 30% complete drawings, 60% complete drawings, and 90% complete drawings. And in each of those milestones, he's giving us an updated cost estimate so that when we get to a final set, we have an estimate with only a 10% contingency. And that is what we used when we put out the documents for bid to say to the contractors, this is what we think it's estimated at. You've heard us say before, the engineers never want to be the low bidder because we don't want to be the ones constructing it. It should be the contractor. And a lot of what the contractor bids depends on what the market conditions are, whether he's got a plethora of work and he doesn't need to work, but he's throwing a number at it. Or if he's short on work and he needs to keep his workers busy, he may come in low instead of high. But the point is, we're doing our due diligence and the consultant working with us to get the best numbers possible so that we can come back to you and say, this is how much money we need to do the project. Now, talking with Eric earlier, I realized two things that were missing out of this document. One is to give you an idea how long each of these phases should take. So conceptual engineering, probably somewhere between 6 to 9 months. Final design may take 6 months to a year, depending on how extensive or how complex the project is. The other thing that's missing out of here is when we need to be telling you how much money we think we're going to need for this project to go forward. And that's generally going to be at the end of the conceptual phase. That'll give you ballpark numbers that gives you an idea as we tell the other MUDs, okay, so much is going to be your share of the other shares. And then we will also know what total bonds or R&R funds we might need for a project. So I will be updating that with those two items. But if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them tonight or today. If you have any, as you read through it and come up with questions, please pass those to Eric and we'll address them.
So do you anticipate the costs going above and beyond whatever the bond number is, 75 million in aggregate?
On the two tier 1 projects?
Yeah.
At this point, no.
Because there's a 30% or whatever it is
Well-
contingency.
We've got 30% on towns, on Woodlands Parkway.
Yeah.
And we have a little bit lower number on, Town Center.
And there's a mechanism should there be an excess, in other words, a residue of funds available of putting those into the R&R fund.
Well,
Is that correct?
so first off, if there's leftover money from the first tier one project.
Yeah.
That'll go towards the next tier one project.
Yeah.
And then if there's money left over that, it would go to tier two. And then if there's money even after that, it would go into R&R.
Okay, so there's a process
Yes,
for managing any surplus. That's okay, and that's in the proposed
that's in
supplement.
the supplemental agreement.
Okay. All right.
And so this is the appropriate time to hand it off to Brian if you have any questions about the contract.
Brian, have you looked at the contract?
We have looked at it, done an initial review, and it's based on what was prepared for the 2017 bond issue, which was the first time we had to do a rehab and replacement project that exceeded what we had in cash on hand. So thus far, what you have in front of you was intended to not reinvent the wheel of what was utilized on that 2017 bond issue. You know, we've got different opinions from different directors as to, how much they want to be involved in the actual projects themselves, as opposed to that's something that's the River Authority's responsibility, and their responsibility is on a higher policy plane. So,
I'm a little confused. We're a customer, right?
correct,
So we have a contract.
correct.
So it's a service contract. So why are we getting involved in the details
Make
of?
the point for me. I mean, you've got different opinions, so.
Yeah, but it's a contract, service contract.
I think it's this mud.
Okay. Okay, given that,
So this is what we have at this point. So at this point, we're soliciting comments from directors. And then we'll take all those comments in, and then we'll evaluate, where we go from there.
I see nothing in this document and the conversation we just had with Ed. We can't go ahead and authorize Eric to execute the contract, the supplemental with SJRA, given that it is a supplement to a service contract. Correct?
Correct.
So,
What one district do that thus far?
well, you made my point. Touche. So the most important part of a motion for item 12 would be to authorize our general manager to execute this supplemental agreement to the original service contract. Is that correct?
Correct.
Get any more background on why specific directors might have asked for this to be deferred?
Directing that question to.
SGRA, you guys seem to have gotten the feedback on it needing to be deferred till after the election.
I think some of it goes back to the same reason, the schedule was set for June or July. Is they would like the new directors to be, even though they don't know anything about it, they prefer to have them be part of the decision-making of the supplemental agreement because they have to live with it going forward. That's speculation based on what I've heard.
Presumably there'll be no new information at that point.
Correct.
That's why I can make a decision.
So is that your motion?
That is my motion.
Okay, do I have a second? I have a second. All those, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Thank you for your time.
thank you. Item 13, discuss and/or act on the water reclamation facility number 1 condition assessment study.
All right. Well, I'm going to be speaking from this one-page memo that's up here at the front. If you not pick one up, just let us know. We'll get one around to you.
That here.
Regarding wastewater facility treatment.
Okay.
So if you were at the trustees meeting, or if you've heard about the trustees meeting, this is a different recommendation from the River Authority. After that conversation and feedback, we did go back, did some internal discussions, and we're now proposing a different recommendation. And essentially, after 5 years of looking at this with y'all, spending over $3 million, what we're proposing at the bottom are 3 items. The first is that we do not do the comparative analysis or the owner's advisor contract Neil was talking about earlier, and we just move strictly into a repair in place option. So we do not look at a new MBR facility. We do not look at a new conventional facility. We do not look at a replace in place option. We strictly go with fix what's broken and then go forward in that manner. The second item is 2A. Prior to doing any of that, we do want to right size the facility. So you've heard conversation over the last 5 years. Is it 7.8 million? Is it 7? Is it 6? Whatever it may be. So what we are proposing is to get a consultant, use the data that Woodlands Water put together on SFDUEs, work with the TCQ and actually see what the peak flow and average daily flow or permitted capacity for the plant needs to be. That will help us determine what size the basins need to be, the blowers, and all different assets throughout the facility. The third item is 2B, is going back to the HDR study where we had tier 1 water lines, tier 2 water lines, tier 3, seemed to work pretty good overall. Use that same concept with wastewater plant 1. It may be in 5-year increments, maybe in 10-year increments, could be in 7. But we're going to go back to the condition assessment that was done by Corello, then ask them to develop this tiered replacement strategy over a 20-25 year time period, and then allow us to know, that will allow us to know tier 1, you're going to need this much in bonds to do these items, or you're going to need this much in R&R to do these items. Because we don't want to bond fund a pump if it's going to last 10 years. We don't want to bond fund it for 20 years. So our recommendations, kind of summarizing them, is stop all analysis on a new plant, move strictly to repair in place, determine with TCQ what the right size of facility needs to be. And then the third is to determine a tiered replacement strategy going forward. We are looking for this to be voted on at the trustees meeting in May.
What about odor control?
That is considered in anything that we do at the plant.
Okay. So that's nothing, that's going to not be changing anything with regard to the treatment volumes and 2-hour peak flows and all that kind of stuff.
Possibly.
Okay.
So generally speaking, you can't admit odor from the wastewater plant, So if we go through and we do this right sizing the facility, everything's sized for basically 7.8 right now. If TCQ says, hey, it needs to be 7, or we're thinking it's 6.5, whatever, then it will change the size of all the different basins.
Right.
Not immediately. We're not going to go through and replace everything, but aeration basins 1 and 2 that need to be replaced, they could be smaller. They could be bigger. But putting them back in, we are going to consider odor when we do that.
Okay. That 3 million, does that include the Kimley Horn study? And
That does not. If
it's just strictly on the assessment of the plant.
Right. Master plan, the strategic plan,
Okay.
if you add up everything related to wastewater plant 1 over the last 5-6 years, it's closer to 4 million.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I
Yeah.
thought it was going to be more money.
It is.
Okay, yeah, okay. So that's now a sunk cost. A sunk cost.
It is.
Money literally down the toilet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's knowledge as well to help us understand what was done at the time.
Corolla,
Right. Now,
And
Corolla's
bits
going to
of-
help.
bits of freezing nickels.
The Freeze and Nichols does have valuable information that played into Corello's. The odor study information, a lot of those basins are still there. We did a lot of odor studies to see how far it dispersed. So it's not sunk data. We still understand if you build something here, this is what it's going to affect.
It'd be helpful to ensure that those residents who are not too far from that facility are aware of what is going on and that there will be mitigation.
Definitely.
For odors. Okay.
The PRPC department definitely takes care of that.
Oh, I was thinking of engineers, doing stuff.
Oh, they're going to, but as far as educating to the actual public
Yeah,
itself,
yeah.
our PC department does that.
Okay.
Oh, Ed reminded me, one also point is, at this point with this swap, and as you know from the decision last month at the trustees meeting, we've moved away from any land acquisition around wastewater plant one, since it's not needed. That is still something that's up in the air for the MUDs and trustees to look at and see is for future planning purposes, do y'all want to go ahead and buy the land around wastewater plant one? You're going to need some of it today, lay down areas, access areas, potential equalization basins. You may need some, but it may be advantageous to go ahead and buy all the land because you don't know what you're going to need in 20 years, 25 years. So while it's there, it's available. We've started the process. Aside from this, you may want to consider purchasing that land.
You brought that up. If you go to page 40, there's a lot, 2-acre piece of land, number 15, right next to the gas line easement. And I guess there's a sewer line going down there somewhere too. That was sold to a development a builder, thinking about mid 2025, and there's been some quite substantial build up of the lot to presumably it's obviously right smack in the 100-year floodplain there. So there. I'm wondering if that represents an issue if you're wanting to buy all the land. It seems like something is intended to be built there.
It could, depending on what they're doing. I mean, it's more value, but also one thing is 13, 14, and 15.
Yeah.
16 for all sakes and purposes, everything west of that gas line or easement stuff that's there. Those at this point, we have no use for. We have no need. Okay. What we were getting them for is we will have a sewer line go through roughly in that area. That's
from lift station 5, the force main.
Yes. Right. But we do not have any plant purpose over there. So therefore we have no eminent domain. Okay. So we'd have to go and basically pay full value for those.
Right.
So if those entities were willing to sell at a reasonable price, we considered buying everything around so we'd have no neighbors, right? Because they get nosy, right? Just kidding.
Well, and the other reason we were considering that is if we were going to relocate Golden Road,
right,
or they remove Golden Road from any road maintenance log, we would have to acquire those properties. So that otherwise, we'd have to pay to reroute Golden Road.
Not much space there. There's no space there really.
Well, you'd have to put it at the north end of lot 3, 2, and 1.
Yeah.
Adjacent to your development.
Okay. So you would consider land therefore that's closest to the facility.
Correct. We'd look at 1 through 12.
Okay.
But not look at 17. 17, which is kind of towards the
communications tower or something.
It is.
Okay.
So, I mean, we could look to buy it, but then we have to move it and there's a bunch of other stuff so they can just stay, That's our recommendation. Of course, the trustees are able to make any other vote they choose to, but this is the recommendation that we are going to present in May.
A motion from us.
Doesn't have to be a
Just a
motion,
recommendation.
just be, give your guidance to your trustee on how you would like your
Okay.
trustee to vote, but it doesn't have to be a motion.
Okay.
So there's going to be no cost comparison. There's going to be no alternatives. This is just blanket. This is what we're doing.
There's not going to be any updated cost comparisons. There were cost comparisons done by Freese and Nichols during their study. This was just hoping to refine it with new SFDUEs, more right sizing, get a second opinion, if you will, just to update all that information. So you do have that information buried back somewhere in the last 5 years to look at.
How would you like to direct our trustee?
I don't think you have much of an option at this point.
General support of the SGRA's recommendations.
I'm not, I would agree with that. Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Uh, How long is it going to take the TCEQ to get all this stuff done?
The initial part is just conversations.
Oh,
So it's still a couple months, but it's just back and forth
okay.
conversations. The
I mean, they
long
don't have
term.
to write a specific permit and all that kind of thing.
All that will come in the future. This is just preliminary saying, hey, if I'm going to do this, it's like getting a budgetary cost, what would you think? So.
Very good.
I don't have an update on item 14, so.
No, MUD one is going through the numbers, looking at some stuff that they plan to bring back to y'all.
Okay.
Attorney's report?
Nothing much. Early voting starts soon for y'all's contested election, and then we will be canvassing and seating directors at your May meeting.
So given the fact that the trustee meeting is before the MUD meeting, it's kind of a odd juxtaposition
Yeah, so
in case there are different outcomes.
Yeah, so the May trustee meeting will have your current trustees.
Oh, okay.
Your May MUD meetings, which will come after that, will seat new directors, and then on that agenda will also be, which is how we've done it in previous cycles, will be to vote on who the officers of the MUD are post-election and who the trustees and alternates are. And those new slate of trustees, to the extent there are any, but the newly appointed trustees would be, have their first meeting in June. And then they would determine officer positions at the June meeting.
I see. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
For clarifying. Okay.
Item 16, discuss and approve termination of the financial advisory agreement between the district and Robert W. Baird and Company Incorporated, and authorize execution of notice of termination, pages 65 through 87.
Good afternoon. I'll take, 16 and 17.
Yep. Thank you.
If you look on page 65, April 2nd was our team's last day at Baird. So we've opted to separate and go independent. And so our team of 16, which was the special district practice, has broken off. And it is an amicable separation. Over the last 11 and a half years that we've been with Baird, they've become a rather large purchaser of muni debt in Texas. And so what we've discovered is, we represent probably around 430-ish districts across Texas now. And Baird is precluded from bidding on those bonds because we act as the financial advisor. So this is in benefit of both parties. We, will still represent the districts and do the advisory side, which is what our specialty is. And Baird will ultimately have the ability to competitively bid on bond issues moving forward. And so there's a letter on page 65 with myself and my three partners, as well as our former head of public finance over at Baird. And then I think there's a form contract in here, which on page 97 is a fee structure, which is not your fee structure. We kept your fee structure the same as what was in the contract, actually, when we came over from RBC 11 and a half years ago. So in the actual contract, it's still the previous methodology. It's not this. This is current, what most districts pay nowadays, but we're keeping your contract the same, keeping in mind that this tiered structure is only when you sell bonds. Otherwise, it's meaningless. The only other real change I guess I'll reference page 97 because it's in the packet. On number 2, annual service fee. The hope is, and what we're proposing is an annual service fee, and for the Woodlands districts, we're recommending $5,000 annually to cover expenses, meetings, travel time, tax rate recommendations, exemption analyses, continuing disclosures, budget discussions with staff. So really what that equates to is around 14 hours per year. We'd rather have a flat fee. We won't come back to you and charge you hourly for anything beyond that. It's just, we're not built that way. It's easier just to have a flat fee and at least recoup some of our overhead. But beyond that, you know, it would be $5,000 a year unless you were to sell bonds. And in that case, we would not charge the $5,000 in that year because we would get revenue from the bond sale.
So, do I have a motion to approve the termination? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
You're welcome.
I think we need
And then I need approval and execution of the financial advisory agreement with Cedar Creek.
Second.
All the, in discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. General Manager's report.
All right, thank you. General Manager's report begins on page 98. We'll see in the report, we're doing quite a bit of work across the woodlands and all the ditches. You can see some examples of some things that we're doing. And then also our in-house crew is well underway of working on some things, particularly desilting some slope paving areas and vegetation cutback. So that's moving along nicely. Wanted to also point out we did about 1,600 work orders this last month. That's we've been quite busy for the last few months. I'm going to also point out that Maureen has made 28 years of service of
Woohoo!
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
also included that I like to do some customer thank you notes as well. You'll see when we usually put this together. And if there are not any other questions on the GM report, I will throw it to John to give you an update on communications.
Oh,
Hi.
page 110 for your communications report. I'll ask you to turn to page 111. We're going to spend a little time looking at the results of the 2026 community survey. So we have been issuing these community-wide surveys since 2022 when we started the communication strategic plan. So this is the 4th round of that. So we're looking at where we are right now, and then also looking at trends over that 4-year period, see how we're progressing. You will note that not all 4 years are present in each question. That's because we have adjusted the questions a bit through time. So if there isn't a direct comparison, we left that year out. And then one more point on our methodology this year, we adjusted how we disseminated the survey to be much more inclusive of the community, to make sure that we were truly getting a representative sample. I think where we perhaps erred a bit in the past was the folks that were in our regular communication stream are overrepresented in the sampling. I think we did a much better job of getting, again, a cross-section of the community. The expectation was that we would see a drop in those knowledge and opinion levels because we're reaching more folks that aren't hearing from us regularly. I don't think that happened. In fact, we saw increases across the board. So this is a very positive report overall. I will highlight some things that we do need to continue to work on. But overall, I think we've got a positive report here. So the highlights. Oh, look, one more thing. So this is, these are 11 of the 26 questions that were asked. Okay, so just some highlights here. You can get the full report, see all the questions with analyses, all the data by scanning that QR code at the bottom right there. All right, the good stuff. How familiar are you with Woodlands Water Agency? Folks that said somewhat or very. 81.2%, that's up 31% in 4 years. We look at opinion levels of Woodlands Water Agency and MUDS. We're at 78% are favorable opinion level, have a favorable opinion level for Woodlands Water. And those with a favorable rating for the MUDS, 63.9%. That MUD increase is up 64% over 2022. Woodlands Water up 44% in that same time period. Moving on down, when we folks that know about where their water comes from, know that they have a blended supply. We're at 62% now, so that's up almost 50% since 2022. We look at satisfaction levels. Folks that said they're satisfied or very satisfied with customer service, 86%. With value for their services, 78%. And with our efforts to keep them informed, 81%. All those are new highs over that 4-year period. So we're continuing to trend upward. Of course, we keep our foot on the pedal with all of these, especially with the transient community. And we're not 100% on anything. Places that we need to put a particular emphasis on would be just a better understanding of our water system. Who does what? 37% of folks said they did not know that Estuary was our wholesale water provider, as an example. We also need to continue our heightened emphasis on water renewal. A lot of effort on that, as you well know, over the last couple of years. Still, we've got a lot of ground to make up. Folks that said they're very aware or somewhat aware of renewal efforts, 35%. Folks that said they're not aware of at all, 36%. The rest somewhere in the middle. Yeah, again, we need to continue to push that. Highly encourage you to check out the full report. And when you do, if you have any questions, please let me know. Any questions now?
Obviously, this is all working.
I think so. I think there's a lot to be encouraged by here, but again, a lot more work to do. So, thank you.
Yes, page 115, trustees report. There was, again, quite a bit of discussion about the water loss question. Hopefully that we can get that resolved at some point. Yes, we understand it. Let's see, there was a discussion of, Brian's not here, but on mud consolidation, what was required. It was a general discussion, so that was on the agenda. And that's my report to you, if anyone has any questions on the report.
Can you give a little more context to the discussion on the alternative to consolidation?
Where was that?
Let me find it. Page 117, first paragraph.
Oh, yeah. Basically, MUDS could vote to transfer authorities to Woodlands Water, which I presume would make alterations to the current interlocal agreement, as opposed to MUDS themselves consolidating and then continuing the same interlocal agreement. The challenge is that decision-making power would be moved from MUDS to trustees. The other thing to remind everyone is that the service agreements are with MUDS, not Woodlands Water. So to me, there's a whole territory that I'm unfamiliar with as to what the implications would be should authority to transfer to Woodlands Water. Not I'm saying anything bad or anything, it's just a complicated thing. It would make it be like more like a city water supply entity, have a sense. But so, one thing, of course, would be, the districts are taxing entities. Now, does that authority go to Woodlands Water? I don't know, but obviously shaking.
No, not levying the tax. I mean, that's, you would still have to, if you're talking about kind of the concept I floated about, in addition to piecemeal consolidations to maybe try to streamline the operations of the boards, would be to potentially delegate more authority to Woodlands Water, and therefore maybe only need to meet not every month, but maybe, 3 or 4 times a year, one of which would be to, authorize publication of notice of your levy your tax rate, but then a lot of other stuff outside of those few core items could be potentially handled by Woodlands Water. Just something food for thought as we were brainstorming on ways to increase efficiency.
Yeah. The question in my mind, would customers feel more distant from the local government aspect of a district? As I say, about more like a municipal water agency of some kind, City of Houston. So, as an example, sorry, that's a bad example. But Conroe, again, that's not a good example either. So, the direction I'm going here. So, anyway, I think it's more to come, obviously, on this discussion.
Okay.
And it might be superseded if we incorporate.
Okay. Do we have a need to go to close?
Not
Okay. Do I have any other items other than the bike path for next month's agenda? With that, meeting adjourned.